What's up, guys? Another winning night last night, 3-1. Definitely enjoy it, dude. I'm enjoying this run. I've only had really like 2 bad days over the weekend. I've been quite hot. Otherwise, I'm enjoying it. Michigan State was a disaster. They got manhandled on the boards. I don't know what that was. It was shocking how poorly they played in that game, really, and how well Wisconsin played in what I thought was a pretty big letdown spot. But Michigan State is one of your Big Ten rivals. But even so, I should have read into the Ken Palm ratings more than I did, I guess, in that one. So that sucked. Everything else was nice. Delaware, huge upset, outright win with Delaware. That was awesome. And then what else do we have? Minnesota Wild was a really easy win as well. Princeton, not quite as easy, even though it should have been easy. It was mostly easy. It was looking pretty easy. They were up double digits near the end of the game, and it looked like it was possible that 2 nights in a row we were going to have like a 6 or 7 point swing in the final 40 seconds against me to lose the play. Because if you watch the end of that Princeton game, it was like they were winning by I think they were winning by 13 with 40 seconds left. So you're like, I just need them to cover an 8. Like, come on. And Princeton is like one of the best, if not the best, free throw shooting team in the country. I think they shoot over 80% as a team. Those Ivies tend to be really good at free throw shooting. Princeton is really good at free throw shooting. And that's a situation that's good for you when it comes down the stretch and you know there are going to be like intentional fouls getting thrown around. You want your team to be good at the free throw line. Princeton is. But what happened in that game, they gave up a 3-pointer, which was kind of a bit fluky, I would say. Cut it to 11. And then it's like, all right, well, still Princeton's going to get sent to the free throw line, which is what happened. Princeton missed the front end of a 1-and-1, a shot where they have like an 80% free throw shooter there, and he misses the front end of the 1-and-1. They give up another 2-pointer. So in a span of about like 7 seconds, all of a sudden it's an 8-point game, and I had -8, and they're sitting right at the number, and I'm like, oh God, like really, is this really going to happen? Really? But luckily, they got intentionally fouled. Well, they only got intentionally fouled one more time, and they only made one more free throw actually in the game. Princeton only had 5 free throw attempts in the entire game, which is ridiculously low. I didn't see the whole game. I don't know why that was the case. I don't know why they went to the line so infrequently. And I think they were at best 3 for 5 on those free throw attempts too, which is very uncharacteristic of Princeton. But they were still able to get there. Luckily, who were they even Drexel. Yeah, that's right. Drexel was in a letdown after upsetting Villanova. Yeah, luckily Drexel missed a couple more shots there near the end. Princeton was able to hang on there. Princeton scored one more basket near the end there to get it back to 11. And Drexel, I believe they missed a 3. Princeton failed to get the rebound. Drexel got Drexel missed a 2, got the offensive rebound, and then missed a 3. That could have, I guess, pushed my bet at the end. Like I would have been pretty angry about that. But luckily that did not happen. Princeton got there. I think it was the right side the whole way. It should not have been as close as it was. That was that. We move on to today. I think today is a pretty weak card, really. I don't have much on this card at all. In the NHL, I don't have anything, but the closest that I am to a play, I would say, would be on Pittsburgh. I think Tampa's in a bad spot. Tampa, they're coming off that huge, quick revenge win over Dallas. That's a huge win for Tampa. They got Pittsburgh coming in, but Pittsburgh just played 2 games in a row against Philadelphia, even though Philadelphia is not really that good. Both of those games went into overtime, and those are tough losses. And Pittsburgh just won at Tampa the game before those 2 games. So it's kind of like it's a quick rematch kind of. Tampa's probably going to want to get themselves together again there. So I can't play either team there, really. I think they're both in negative spots. Tampa's up, though, from -115 to -128 as the home favorite. Don't see percentages on that yet. I can't do it, man. I can't get involved in that. And then, yeah, that's really all I have to say about the NHL card. There's not much going on there. I do see that, Edmonton Edmonton has flipped to a favor from -1 or plus 130 to -110 at home with 89% of the cash, but 57% of the tickets on Carolina. So it does look like the market read. There are some pretty strong indicators on Edmonton, but I just don't really understand why. Carolina just lost to the Jets starting out their road trip. Now they got the Oilers. Yeah, I just really there's nothing that I see in this angle that would want to put me there, even though the market read looks like it would be on Edmonton, but Edmonton also just beat the Jets. So people are going to look at that and say, well, Edmonton just won at the Jets. Carolina lost to them. So doesn't that mean Edmonton should destroy Carolina here? Basically, should easily be able to beat them. So I don't know. That's kind of the way I look at that. And Edmonton just lost at Carolina. So there are a lot of things situationally that point opposite the market there. So that's tricky there. And Edmonton has won some big games in a row. They beat the Vegas Golden Knights, the returning champs. Then they went out on the road and they were able to not suffer the letdown, which I think I lost on that game. They won at Winnipeg, which is pretty decent win there. I thought I was going to say it's a divisional win. It's actually not. They're not in the same division. Vegas is, though. And then now they come back home to face Carolina. Yeah, I just don't see why the market read would be on Edmonton there. I don't get it. Moving to, let's go to the NBA first here. We got one play in the NBA, which these are not my strongest reads, man. So hopefully these wind up being decent plays. I'm fading the Atlanta Hawks. It's kind of a typical spot where I would want to fade a team. They're actually down from 4.5 to 4, 60% of the tickets on them, but 75% of the cash on the Nets. So the market read does look like it's on the Brooklyn Nets with me here. And the main factor here is that Atlanta's returning from a long road trip. That's why I don't like Atlanta here. They didn't do well on the road trip either, particularly. They went 2-3, but one of the losses were to Boston, Cleveland, and Milwaukee. So those are not bad losses, especially Boston and Milwaukee, of course. But the last time they played Brooklyn was right before going on that road trip, and they beat them in a crazy high-scoring overtime game at home. So I don't know if Brooklyn's going to have like a little bit of that as like a motivator in the back of their heads, but Atlanta's returning home. They do have a couple extra days off on the return home, but I still think it's like a distracted spot. They're coming off a game where they lost to Milwaukee by double digits, but they were within a couple points in that game really deep into the game. It was still like a 3 or 5 point game with a couple minutes left in the game. So that was a hard fought game, a hard fought loss that Atlanta's coming off of. I think that puts Atlanta in a sandwich spot here. That game was closer than the final score looks. They played tough in that game, and they have the Philadelphia 76ers coming up on Friday. So this is a tough spot to be in. It's a return home between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers, a couple of the biggest teams in the conference. You got the Atlanta Hawks you are the Atlanta Hawks. You got the Brooklyn Nets coming in there who have been kind of a middling team. I think it's a bad spot. I think Brooklyn has a lot less going on in their schedule right now. They have the same amount of days off. The NBA, most of the NBA teams have those days off because of the stupid in-season tournament that was going on the last couple of days. Brooklyn, I mean, yeah, they had a decent win in their last game, a good win, really. They beat a really hot Orlando Magic team, but I don't know how much stock you can put into that. They've actually beaten Orlando twice this year. They're 2-0 against them. I think Orlando's an overrated team right now. The record's like really good. I think the record is better than they actually, it makes them look better than they actually are, I would say. It is a big win for Brooklyn, but I think it's not really that much of a letdown spot. You have some time to get over that. You're going out on the road for this single game. You don't have anything upcoming. You got the worst team in the league upcoming, Washington. So you don't really have much to do except be focused on Atlanta here. And the last time you played in this venue, you lost that tough overtime loss, that really high-scoring game. So I think there is reason for Brooklyn to be focused here. I think it's a bad spot for Atlanta. It's a return home from a fairly long road trip, even though they have a couple days off. I think it's still a typical like distraction spot for them, and it's sandwiched in there between a pretty tough game against the Bucks and with the 76ers upcoming on Friday. So even though Atlanta does probably want to get to 500, I think it's tough. They're laying points. You don't want to be laying points in a situation like that. I don't think people think that Brooklyn is that good, really. People like Atlanta better. I mean, they know they have Trae Young and stuff. They have some big names on that team. They made the playoffs last year. People like Atlanta more so than Brooklyn. People don't even know who Brooklyn has on their team, really. So, I don't think the public is going to be. I mean, you can see, as I talked about the market percentages, the public does not appear to want anything to do with the Nets here, but the market percentages look like it's on them right now. Though actually, it just flipped. So now it looks like it's 63% of the tickets on the Hawks with 65% of the cash on them. I don't even know how to read these pregame numbers this early, man. They're just moving around all over the place. I'm reading the situation here and the fact that I think the Hawks are still going to remain public. So that's play number one is on the Brooklyn Nets plus 4.5. I think there's still 4.5s out there. And finally, this big college basketball card. College basketball, Wednesday is pretty big. Tuesday is bigger, but Wednesday, there's a lot of games between smaller conference teams and just not a lot of situations that I see setting up here. But the one that I do like is going to be a fade of Memphis. Memphis, they're a team that started pretty hot. They were rated pretty well to start the season. KenPom had them pretty high, like in the 20s, but now they've dropped on KenPom to like the 40s because their recent play has not been as good. They've dropped from 3.5 to 2.5 as a road favorite at VCU. It almost looks too easy to take Memphis in this situation because of their hot start. And they've beaten some decent teams in that run. They beat Missouri. Well, Missouri, we don't know how good they are, really. They beat Michigan, who's not terrible. They beat Arkansas, who was ranked at the time. Then they lost to Villanova, the Arkansas, Villanova, and I think maybe the Michigan game as well. Those are all in that battle for Atlantis and the Bahamas. Now, Memphis, they're facing their second straight road game because in their previous game, they had a tough game against Ole Miss, man. Ole Miss is an undefeated team, and they might be better than we thought that they were to start the season. They've been playing well, even though I don't know if they've really beaten anybody that good yet. It looks like they basically haven't, but excuse me, they're still an undefeated team. And that was a hard-fought game all the way to the end. Memphis had a big lead. The line was like right about a pick-em line in that game. Memphis was winning throughout like the entirety of the first half for most of the game, really, and they lost in the end. A tough game there, tough way to lose to Memphis. Now they get a second straight road game, and they have to go to VCU, and it is their third, I believe, actual road game of the season. So they have faced a couple of road games already, and they won the first one at Missouri. But even so, and then up next they get multiple ranked teams. They get Texas A&M, then Clemson, then Virginia after this. So they have this sandwiched in between a bunch of big conference teams. So I don't know that they're going to be totally focused on VCU. I don't know if they have much reason to do so. They're coming off a pretty tough game against Ole Miss. They have a big game against Texas A&M coming up, and then Clemson and Virginia. So that kind of makes it a sandwich type of spot there, I would say. And VCU, I think they're in a nice bounce back spot here. And they're coming off a lost to Norfolk State. Like, what's up with that? That could have been a spot where they just totally overlooked them. Could have been a sandwich spot because they had just played Iowa State and they only lost by 4. They lost by 4 to Boise, who's a pretty good team still, I think. They beat Penn State, who's a Big Ten team, even though they're not really that good this year, I don't think. And then they had this game coming up next. So they had Norfolk State, a lesser opponent in between all these other bigger games. So I think they just let that slip, but they were like a 12 and a half point favorite, I think, in that game against Norfolk State, and they lost the game outright. That's pretty embarrassing on your own floor, too. Like, they're not going to want to let that stand, man. This is a bounce back spot for VCU. You just lost as a double-digit favorite on your own floor. Yeah, like I said, you can't let that stand. You don't have big games coming up. Like, this is the game you're going to be focused on. I think there's reason for VCU to be totally focused here. Coming off that awful, embarrassing upset loss that they had there, double-digit upset. Nothing on the horizon for them. I think they're going to want to play well in this game. I like VCU. Memphis, they're kind of in a down spot schedule-wise. Memphis is. It's a little bit sandwich looking there, whereas VCU, this is like kind of the up spot in their schedule where they're going to want to play well and going to want to focus and bounce back. So you have those conflicting situational angles there. I like VCU. I got plus 2.5 there. The 3.5s, unfortunately, were gone. KenPom, what do they have this game at? They have this. Well, they do have this game 3, so they have this game right around where the line is. So not much to take away from that. But situationally, I like it. So those two plays are on VCU plus 2.5 in college basketball, and the Brooklyn Nets plus 4.5 in NBA. That's going to do it for me, man. I'm Toad, as always. Have a good Wednesday. I don't love these plays tonight, to be honest. I don't love this card, but those are the angles that I see here. I will do an NFL video probably tonight. After the Tower Gang show, as usual. And then at some point, I got to talk about bowls, man, even though I haven't looked at the lines within the last 24 hours or so. I'm sure those lines are moving, and I got to get those things nailed down and find some situations that I like in the bowls. So I got to do a video on the bowls at some point. The bowls start next Saturday, I believe. So let's get it done, man. Have a good day. As always, peace.